business item 5H as well as 8B because unfortunately Chelsea is unwell and can't join us.
Yep. Counselors, any other additions or changes for tonight? I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda as presented.
So moved. I'll second.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, George. Any further discussion?
Only that we can't see the rest of the room.
You can't see the rest of the room?
Can't see the room.
All right.
It's being worked on, right?
We can.
Yep, it'll get there.
Sounds good.
So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Great, so that passed unanimously. Thank you all. And that will bring us into the public to be heard portion of tonight's meeting. So this is a time where if there are members of the public who wish to bring something to the board's attention that is not on the agenda, now is the time to do so. So for those of you using Zoom, please go ahead, raise your hand, and I'll make sure to call on you when we get to that point. Anybody here in the room wish to bring something to the board's attention that's not on the agenda? Seeing no hands in the room, looking back to Zoom, no hands at Zoom. So we will come off of public to be heard and jump right into business item 5A, which is an interview and potential consideration of an appointment to the Tree Advisory Committee. And I believe we have Nicole here with us. Hi, Nicole. If you'd like, please come up to the microphone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And something that we do offer to all potential committee appointees is if you'd like to have this conversation in executive session, in particular to help make sure that anything that you say does not then impact something in your employment or other spheres of your lives, we can certainly do that if you would like. But otherwise, if you're okay doing this in an open session, you can do that too.
Sure, we can proceed.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time and considering being on the Tree Advisory Committee. Just to get things started, if you don't mind, with what your interest is and what you'd hope to accomplish and or learn about.
Oh, sure. Thank you for asking me that. So I'm a new member of Essex Junction, and I moved with my family in June, just a couple of weeks before we all became officially a city. And that was very exciting, July 1st. I came down to the Junction where the celebration was happening and just heard all these different stories of how that had been a goal and a dream for a long time. And so many people worked really hard to make that happen. And so I really just wanted to jump in to my new community and serve in any capacity that might be helpful to the new city, such as it is, a new community for me. So I put on my application that I'm also an Earth Day baby from way back when, April 22nd. And I think that's always somehow had an inner calling, I guess, for me to be interested in nature and interested in our climate and interested in trees and anything that can really help preserve the beautiful place that we live. And now that I'm living in this beautiful place called Essex Junction, and I saw an opening on the committee, I thought this might be a really nice fit. I'll be the first to admit I don't have a lot of horticulture background. My kids might even tell you my thumb might be a little bit more brown than green. But this is a beautiful area, and I've already learned that there's more than one type of maple tree out there. So I'm starting to understand some of the environment of Vermont, and I hope to learn a lot more. In terms of what I'm hoping for in my tenure if I were chosen to be on the committee, a lot of it has to do with outreach. I would like to be a part of making sure that the community is up to date, not only on what we're doing as a committee, but also the things that they can be doing just as everyday citizens of the Junction and as on Earth as well. So that's sort of what brought me here today.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. Other counselors, other questions?
Nicole, you said you're a freelance writer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, and probably not even relevant to the tree committee, but just what kind of writing do you do?
A little bit of everything, I guess. My my main gig, as you would say, is a content creator for a career coach company where we really help people to pivot, especially in this environment where you can go on to have several different careers in a lifetime, depending on what chapter you're on in your life. And if you're having a different interest and want to pivot. So a lot of content for that. And then also, I guess my passion is writing about books. And so Brownell Library right over there. It's one of my favorite places to be, or just reading a book in general. But I often do some book review lists for some ebook websites as well.
Well, I won't speak for the tree committee. They'll have to decide on their own, but I think that your writing skill, your communication skills would be appreciated on that committee, just for the reasons you said so.
Thank you.
Other counselors, other questions? I just to echo what George was saying, and in particular that the tree committee is not a committee that just sits back, talks, and then goes about the rest of their day, but is certainly very active beyond that, doing things to help with planting trees, planning for trees, and helping with the emerald ash borer plan that had been put forth and adopted by our community. So it's certainly a very active committee, helping with our Arbor Day celebrations. I know that the tree committee has gone up to Summit Street School, participated in Arbor Day events up there as well. So it's a very active committee, and having somebody to help further that message out into the communities would be a great fit.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So is there any questions you have for us?
No, not at this time. I've been enjoying looking at the website, and that was one place where I thought maybe also I could help update what the tree committee's doing and get the message out there. But no, that's really all. I've been very interested in getting to know the community, and I appreciate the welcoming that whether it's been from the schools here or the people in my neighborhood or the people through the city itself. It's been a really nice transition to this area, and I am really excited that we ended up where we did.
Well, that's great to hear, and welcome to Essex Junction.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nicole, and we'll continue with this in just a moment if you want to stick around, or if not, understand that as well. Not sure what that. Not sure who's causing the bleeping. Okay. If there are no further questions, comments, we do have a motion of appointing Nicole. Entertain the motion.
I will move that we approve Nicole Klett to the Tree Advisory Committee for a 3-year term.
Second.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Dan. Any further discussion?
No, but I'd only say that, Nicole, you might want to stick around. I don't know what your plans are, but you might want to stick around just for the next item anyway, because we have a really interesting design you might be, since it's sort of tree related, you might want to take a look at.
So with no other questions, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Great. So it passed unanimously. Congratulations, Nicole. Thank you for coming to the community and stepping up. And so as George had just alluded to, we will now jump into the next agenda item, which is a presentation and feedback on the One Main Street park design. I believe I saw that we had David Burton on the screen.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hi, David.
Hi.
Do you have the ability to share, David, or I can make you a co-host?
Let's see. No, I will need to. It says I'm disabled. I can't participate in screen sharing.
Okay, just made you a co-host. Hopefully that comes through.
Is that up? Okay. All right. Well, yeah, let's see. I'll try to see if I can share my screen here.
If you don't mind if I came up and stood back.
Oh, yes.
So I can see.
Go ahead.
Or we can pull that out.
Yeah, okay.
We can pull that out so that the rest of the audience can see that. So last time I was in front of the city council, we worked together to kind of assemble a list of considerations, or I like to call them constraints, regarding this space and this park. And you can see a list of them here that we really tried to consider as an advisory group. We got together and we went to the park space. We talked about the different options and came up with a few additional considerations, things like drainage and safety and durability. But I think some of the things that really stood out to me in these lists are this thought of this being a town green, which may be a misnomer. I like to consider it more of like a town plaza or a city park. That I think is a better representation of what this space I think could be. I think one of the considerations was that it could be a beacon of welcome to the city, and so those things really resonated and stuck with me as I was considering the design and the possibilities. The other thing that we did was we sent out a survey to the public, the community, and got some really good feedback there. And one of the things a couple of things that stood out to me from the feedback was this desire to use materials that were in keeping with the historical context of the town, including buildings and brick, some of the different granites and wrought iron. And that scored really high as far as importance with those that participated in that survey. So I think that was something that really drove the design process as well. So what I'm going to be presenting to you is a conceptual design, and conceptual designs are great for conversation. There's lots of different options, lots of different ways to achieve this, but I think I came up with an option that's really going to check these boxes. And provide something that will feel like something that the city can be really, really proud of, that will stand the test of time, and really be an inviting place, a space that people are going to want to be in, and obviously that's the goal. So, and just one other thing that I like to say as I show the design itself is that with a conceptual design, it's an opportunity to do kind of bolder strokes of the brush as well. So there are things on here that are pretty bold and are options. Everything is still in that conceptual phase, and that's why I like to present it here and now to get that feedback to say, hey, we're on a good track, or say, now's a good time to redirect if something's not really resonating with everybody else as far as being in line with what the city wants. So just kind of starting with a plan view of the space. I wanted to provide multiple entrances into the space. One of the other things that scored really high on that survey was this protection or division from the road itself. And so what I'm proposing is that we actually use a series of fences and pillars to provide this space as being protected from the road, and then also using plantings. That was another thing that scored really high, was that the community wanted more plants than just the trees. And so within this layout, we have additional planting areas in addition to the 5 street trees that we had talked about wanting to make sure that we incorporated. And then I have this central pergola space here that is a really bold statement, and I think a really great welcome to the city and also to this space. And because one of the things that was important as well is this idea of shade, and wanting to make sure that we had a comfortable place for the community to sit and enjoy this park. And so what I'd like to say is that, yeah, these trees will provide that shade for this space, and they will, but it might be 20 or 30 years before they're at the maturity to really do that. So what I'd like to propose is that we're using some shade sail structures, this pergola structure, as a way to provide instant shaded areas for the public to be able to enjoy while we wait for the maturity of these trees to catch up and provide additional shading and additional coverage. So within this space, I think what you'll find is that I tried to keep in context with the historical elements of the town, of the city of Essex Junction, but then add some elements that were a little bit more contemporary with these hexagon shapes. And I'll show this in 3D, which I think will help you to be able to visualize it a little better. But with the hexagon shapes and multi-level sitting area, it's a little bit more, a little different, a little bit more modern of a look. Even using some steel or Corten steel planters provides something that I think leads us into the future of the city. And I like the idea of hexagons because one of the considerations was the context of Vermont. And with bees and just the natural elements of a community that bees represent as they work together for a common goal, I think that really plays well with this hexagonal shape that you'll see in the design too. So this is a perspective view looking from Main Street into the space. And so you can see we've got this pergola structure, and the pergola design, this was something that Rick Hamlin had a really great contribution on, and really wanting this to have some feel of an older world train station kind of dynamic and style. And so I think with the steel arches, that really helped to achieve that. And then you can see in here, this area here, I think really provides a more casual lounging and sitting area with the incorporation of some planters for color and for pollinators and all of that good stuff as well. And you'll see style wise, we've got the brick columns with the wrought iron fencing to really pull in those materials from the community and from the other architectural elements that are so much a part of what Essex Junction represents. And obviously the clay, I have clay pavers as an option for the paving surface, and with Drury Brickyard, that being a big consideration there. So this is a good representation of kind of like what this could look like when it first gets installed. The trees would probably be 2.5, maybe 3-inch caliper trees. Decent sized trees are going in originally, but then as they mature, we would be getting a lot more coverage to eventually not even need some of these other shade structures that would be kind of more of a temporary solution for shade that would be overtaken by the more mature trees down the road. So that's the Main Street view. This is the view from Firebird Cafe. And one of the considerations that was important was that we recognized that long-term that property could be developed right up to that property line. So we wanted to make sure that we were considering that in the design. And this right here shows that the elevation against that Firebird property would be raised a bit so that water can shed and pitch toward the street and toward the stormwater drain. And that would result in having 2 steps approximately. That still needs to be developed a little bit more, but a couple of steps up through into this space and be a transition from the Firebird side into the park itself. Again, this is a Maple Street perspective. So looking from Maple Street into the space, you can see there's easily, comfortably, I calculated, you could have 50 to 60 people in this space just lounging and eating lunches and enjoying the space without any additional seating or, need for larger, more seating than what this design would provide. And so this is the perspective with incorporating a section here that would really be for a bike rack and still be able to provide one of the street trees that would provide shade in this space as it matured. But then again, you can see these structures with their multiple levels make for a really kind of dynamic space that people can use, whether they're lounging or kids are climbing on, stepping on, up and down. I think they would make for a really, just something a little different, a space that would be comfortable to sit in, but stray a little bit from just a flat surface. So it gives some texture, gives some three dimension to the space. So the last thing I wanted to show was I was able to do kind of a Photoshop 3D overlay here, just to help visualize this is our Google Earth street view of the current space now, and this is kind of what we would be looking at as an overlay, for what the space could look like. And so I think that's a good representation of kind of what we're suggesting, what we're recommending. That's what I have for our presentation. So if there's any questions or feedback or next steps.
David, thank you for that. Bridget, I know you were heavily involved in this as well. Rick Hamlin, thank you as well. Honestly, I'm blown away by what I'm seeing here. When I saw it in the packet, I was very impressed and quite thrilled at the result. I have no critical feedback. Everything I think is fantastic. I love in particular the pergola design, as well as the history of maintaining a brick state there, or having the brick base, as if you will. I think it's wonderful.
Absolutely. David, can I ask when you say the red clay tiles, are those large tiles that have been scored to look like bricks, or are those actually clay bricks, or it could be either one? What?
Right. I think my preference would be that they were clay bricks. There are lots of uses of bricks in public spaces like this, especially around the local campuses, Champlain College and UVM campuses, and so I'd like to see this as brick. There is an added cost associated with that, as well as some potential considerations from a maintenance standpoint. But yeah, so my preference would be clay brick.
I just think it's terrific. I think you just hit it out of the park. I mean, I think it's just terrific. I think it's you turned silver into gold. So I think it's terrific. And I would go for the brick too. I just wasn't sure what the complexity of that is in terms of dealing with what's over there now. I know we can't tear up the asphalt, so we have to put something on top of it. I just didn't know how tricky that would be. Maybe that's something that can be done. And
yeah, I think if I could that reminded me of two things that I want to bring up. One is that we did do the soil testing for the space, and as Miles Waite put it, it came back favorable. So there were a couple of spots that were considered contaminated to the point that they would need to have special disposal needs, but the majority of the space was not contaminated to that degree. So some of the initial concerns with how bad the soils were going to be has been decreased. And so that does a couple of things. That makes us have a little bit more flexibility with the depth of our dig, as well as potentially keeps us from having that additional expense, which does get to my second point, which is the considerations around budget. And I as a designer am very sensitive to the fact that the designer always over comes back with a design that's over budget, and I hate that. and I try not to do that. And the way that I try not to do that is by providing options. But in our last meeting, you did express, hey, if you got a really cool idea, show us it, and we'll consider it. And and if we need to consider budgetary, considerations, we'll do that. So that's paraphrasing, but so some of these elements, by incorporating these brick columns, by incorporating this wrought iron that initially I wasn't really thinking was going to be a part of this design, as well as this pergola structure, which is a it's a pretty large portion of the design. I think the 200,000 budget, I think the way that you're seeing it now, we would be surpassing that.
Yeah.
So I don't have any hard numbers, and that was kind of the next step of this. Was I wanted to say, hey, this is what I've got. This is the big idea. This is what our advisory group came up with. Which I do want to say, I got great feedback from the advisory group, and they really did help me to refine this to what you're seeing right here. So with the input of that group, it was just really, really dynamic and helpful to achieve what you're seeing. So I want to make sure I'm giving them the credit that is due them. So there are options, but I think the track I was going on was want to make sure we're on track with from a design standpoint, and then we can really start to go into a deeper kind of exploratory budget phase. So we can say, hey, great, we love this. What are these elements going to cost? And and how is that going to relate to what we have to spend and what we're willing to spend? So in my just kind of initial experience, kind of rolling numbers around, I think this could be over 300,000. With some of the elements as you see it now, but there's always options. So, but I want to kind of rip the Band-Aid, early and get your feedback at this stage, so that if we need to kind of tweak things, now's the time to do it.
Go ahead.
No, I was just curious, Dave. I saw the recycle bins, trash cans. Curious about lighting, if there's any consideration for lighting either on the pergola or somewhere near these brick pillars or whatever.
Pillars, yeah. So my typical process is that I try to get through the conceptual phase before I put a lot of effort toward lighting, just because so much can change in the infrastructure that really impacts the lighting. So yeah, there's great opportunity for lighting in this space. I mean, and even Rick mentioned from the city, being able to do holiday lights and stringing the pergola, some of those kinds of things, even seasonal interest lights. I think there's a really great opportunity within this space. But yes, I think there's a lot of opportunity for lighting this space up at night in a really attractive way and functional way, to be able to have this space be usable, into the darker months that we're in now. So for sure.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Raj.
No, I guess I also love this. I was really excited, excuse me, to see it in the packet. So thanks. I've been struggling with, would I change anything? And I can't think of a thing. I think it's fantastic. That said, so with the financial concern you're having, I'm curious from the board when, we've got budget season coming up, so we're going to have some of these conversations. When do we need to know this? What's the timeline like here? Excuse me, to keep this going. David.
Yeah, I think with the understanding that we like this approach and like this design, I think really, like I said, the next phase is really is some exploratory. I'd like to send this out to a couple of contractors that I've already been kind of in communication with to kind of get some ballpark numbers, and it would be helpful if with me saying, hey, this structure, this total package is going to exceed this budget by how much I don't know for sure. Like I said, I've kind of tossed from my experience, tossed some numbers at it, which is, just enough to be dangerous. So if the city council, or, if you would have an idea of saying, look, David, you're going to need to stick to this 200, that would greatly impact what I would do before I sent it out to have folks price it up. The other option would be, hey, we love it the way that it is. Let's price it the way that it is, see where it comes back, and then start to subtract if we need to in certain areas. That's another way of doing it. But I don't want to spin wheels or waste time if it's just like, hey, this is, sorry, this is just more than we're willing to spend on the space, which is fine and understandable. It's just kind of those next steps in the process.
So to
Gotcha.
be direct to your point, David, I would say that personally, I'm fine with moving forward with the design that you have, with the conversation coming back to this is what that price would be for this design, and then how or what would some options be to reduce that cost, and what the impact would be to the design. So that latter option that you offered would be my preference. Councilors, would you agree, disagree?
I agree, but I would say I'd put two things in there. I love the design. I would hate to see, we're building this for decades to come.
Mm-hmm.
I think that shortchanging it, I would hate to see that. I think the design is great. The other thing I would point out, though, it doesn't, we could put it into the upcoming budget, but really, if we're talking about the Economic Development Fund, which should probably be up around 800,000 now.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't hear that, David, but it's, I don't think it's something, unless we're thinking of putting it into the general fund budget. It seems like we might have resources from outside the general fund budget. So it's really not, we don't really have to know in terms of coordinating it with our upcoming budget discussion. Maybe Regina has a different thought about that, but I don't know. That's my thought. I agree with it anyway. Bottom line is I agree. I would like to see what the cost comes back the way it's designed now, and then let us figure out the financial piece from that point.
I'm comfortable with that.
Great. Bridget, I think I saw that you had.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is a great example of a collaborative process, short term, where the EGRP, Public Works, a couple of community members, one cranky, me, and work together to make this happen. We met 4 times, and David ran things by us, and he had a great design, and we all went, this is fantastic. It really, really is. Yep. I have a question for David, and that is, I don't see, or maybe it's just my old eyes, but the hexagons. I mean, I see them, but I wonder if the council people saw them as clearly as they are in there. Do you have them?
They're in our design really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got them.
Yeah, I think that's a key piece of it. And I also can't see one of my bugaboos was points on the I'm sure you've taken care of it, David. On the fence, I just don't want spikes on that fence. I want there to be maybe something round in the fence, and so that it doesn't invite injury or whatever we could foresee as
barbed wire.
As a city park. So, but overall, I think the design is amazing, and I really commend David for doing this, and I commend the committee. I mean, professionals and lay people alike work together to make this happen. It's an example, I think, maybe for the future of how these kinds of things can get done.
Yeah.
I really like that.
That's awesome. Great. And in particular, I really do appreciate the pergola structure. Clearly, the biggest thing that we had heard was shade, someplace where people can congregate, be outside in the hot summer months, and get some reprieve from the sun. So that's certainly something I'd like to see continue to stay in the design. The other side of this the financial question, one of the things that I've heard from some community members is a desire to potentially purchase some bricks or to purchase some capability to have their name etched in the bricks. And I think that that could be another way to bring in some potential revenue for this. So if there were a way that someone could purchase a brick for say $100, so that way they could have their name etched into it, would be a nice way to also allow them to be a part of this process for however long a brick would last.
Yep.
So, counselors, is there anything else?
Can I ask Regina, what do you think?
I think the design is really fantastic. I just, my only hesitation on the funding side of things is we do have to figure out how to pay for a match for the Amtrak grant as well.
Yes.
And so that is a consideration.
I know.
That's what I was considering when I was looking at the Economic Development Fund and talking about budget season.
Yep. I think that it's absolutely part of a conversation we'll need to have of how all the funding pieces will tie together so that we make sure that we do what we need to do. Great. David, anything else you need from us?
No, that's great. No, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so then next on our agenda, we have the all hazards mitigation plan, the fun short document, discussion and consideration of the plan. So Chief Hoague, thank you for being here.
Yes, I've had to read that many times. Happy to say that you maybe only had to read it once.
In chunks.
In chunks.
Over a
yes.
period of time.
Absolutely.
Do you want me to give a little
Please, yeah.
intro? Yeah. So, this plan is a plan. It's been around in the county for, I don't know, this might be the 4th or 5th iteration that we've had of it. It's quite the process in putting it together. It's a pretty huge document at the county level, and then also each annex for every municipality is pretty large as well. I think you can tell from this annex that it was previously done more collectively between the town and the city, and so there's a lot that is still kind of a little muddy in there between the two. And so next time around, we'll definitely want to have a clearer city side list of things to do. But big picture, we put these plans in place because we do have these hazards, and we have to be thinking about how to mitigate and prepare for those. And I think this plan does a good job of describing what those are. And we've both, I think on the town side and the city side, have been moving towards these mitigation things for quite some time and will continue to do so. Upgrading culvert sizes for larger storms is a good example. There are some things, like if we could rewrite it and get some things cleared up, that would be fantastic. But there's a deadline of October 31st for the annex approvals to get into the full county plan, to get its approvals necessary at the state. Changing anything in that structure really kind of creates havoc. The other thing I will say is really an important part of getting this plan in place is that if there is a FEMA declared disaster, and we have any damage that we need to get funding for, with this plan in place, we get a better match rate with the state than if we didn't have this plan in place.
Mm-hmm.
That sums it up. Yes.
So that sums up the 400 pages.
I actually think Regina knows more about this plan than this is the first time that I participated in it, and it seems like she knows a lot more about the process of putting this together. It was an extensive process. It started back in, I want to say, February, with an outside company that was hired to come in and do most of the work on it, and in cooperation with us, with the emergency management for the local level. That's where it got to where it is now, and Obviously, we'd like to go back and make some changes that were specific to the city. Most of these parts were written prior to July 1st. So we really didn't have the ability to be able to go back and change it. And we were working with the assumption that the next one definitely would have that separation to it. So.
And for our context, any of those errors, they don't necessarily commit us to doing anything. They don't harm us in any way. It's just, it's wrong.
Correct. There's some information in there, such as I think, the purchase of I think there's a purchase of a ladder truck, which I'm sure the fire chief would enjoy here in the city, a second one. But, it's things like that don't commit the city to anything.
Yeah. Right. And mentioning other municipalities and some things that pertain to municipalities that are not within the city of Essex Junction. It doesn't require us to address those things. And conversely, my understanding is some city things are in other municipalities' annexes as well, which doesn't commit them to doing anything for us.
Yes.
It just, again, is one of those. I've in talking with Regina, my understanding is feedback has been given in terms of how this process has gone to the people who are creating it and making it the convolutedness that it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just, it is what it is, and we all just need to kind of accept it and move on so that if we have an event, we can get the best match possible.
Correct. And in addition to this, we also have our own local emergency management plan, which is much more detailed than this and includes most of the information that is in here, but it's in addition, it's more specific to just our areas that we have. So, and we complete that every year as well.
So, counselors, are there any questions?
No, I make the observation. It was a huge amount of work, but it's necessary work. It's really essential work. It's good work, but it's the hard work of local government. So it is appreciated on our behalf.
My only question is, in the future, could the process be changed so that way it's not wrong? Or who's?
Well, I think the only thing with the process of this one was that there was some unfamiliarity on the part of the folks that were doing the actual plan. In addition, there was the transition that was going on during this. It was a transition away from the course of a merger down to a separation. So in the future, there would be, that shouldn't be an issue.
Great. If there are no other questions, I would entertain the motion to adopt the all-hazard mitigation plan.
I recommend that the city adopt the all-hazard mitigation plan in accordance with the attached certificate of adoption.
Second.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Dan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Great. So that passed unanimously. Thank you, then. And sorry, trying to get back to my agenda here. Next up, we have the conversation with Police Chief Ron Hoague.
We have the light. Oh, yes, you're right.
Yep. And before we continue with this conversation, just for those on Zoom land, sorry that the camera is not working. My understanding is the only way that it can be resolved is if the meeting is restarted, is if the meeting ends and then restarts, which would require everybody in the meeting to leave, rejoin. And so sorry, but we're just going to have to not have all of our beautiful faces being shown. Just pretend, if you will. But we're all here. So hi again, Chief Hoague.
Hello. Thanks for having me and taking time in your busy schedule, which I know it is, to come and listen about the police department. So I have a bit of a PowerPoint that I put together just to keep me on task, and we'll start that and just go through this. This shouldn't take too long to do this. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but so this started this summer when Brad Luck asked if I could come and share some information about the police department, how we've been doing, what we're doing, that kind of thing. And then I understand, I think the way it's going now is I think you're hearing from all your department heads. So that's perfect that it fits right in there. I just wanted to share a little bit with you folks about what we've been doing as a police department since I've been chief the last couple of years, how we've compared to the last 5 years as far as crime data, and how we're looking as far as staffing and that type of thing. So next slide, please. So, and another one, please. All right. So as most of you know, but there may be some folks that are listening that might not know, since 1980, the Essex Police Department's provided 24/7, 365 coverage to both the town and the village of Essex Junction and now the city. And we originally, as you know, started out as the village police department, and then were transferred over to the town around that same time. So that's how we came about. So right now we're providing 24/7, 365 dispatching services as well for Essex Fire Department, the Essex Junction Fire Department, the Essex Rescue, Westford Fire Department, Town Public Works, City Public Works, and the Williston Police Department, which is part-time for us right now. We agreed to do that back in July as a result of dispatching issues that were going on, and I think I had sent a previous memo in regards to that, keeping you guys informed. So we currently provide patrol and staff investigative division as well. Our investigators handle everything from frauds to homicides. We have 5 investigators now in our Bureau Criminal Investigation unit, and then we have currently 16. I think I'm counting in my head 16 people assigned to patrol. That includes 4 supervisors, which we added an additional sergeant last year. So after our restructuring, when I took over in 2020, we went from having lieutenants as our on-duty supervisors to sergeants, which is the traditional model for most police departments and other agencies. So we currently have a supervisor on now until 4 a.m, whereas before we only had someone on until around midnight most nights. So that provides us, especially with the younger folks that we have in our department now, it provides us with better supervision and more resources for those folks who haven't been on as long as some people had in years past, where folks had been around for a long time. So we also, as the slide says, we also still have support services. We have a records department, of course, our administration. We have Rick Gary, former Chief Rick Gary, who is working for us still part-time. He came back after he retired, and he's currently our technology and special projects person. And literally, he does virtually everything. He is a very happy man doing exactly what he loves to do, which is take care of our building, take care of our IT issues, and anything other special project that I ask him to take care of. He does that, and I can't say how much it's been great having him come back. And then finally, emergency management. So currently right now we are authorized 31 full-time sworn officers, and that was 32 up until this year. With this budget, we were authorized to convert one of those positions to our community affairs liaison, which we just recently hired. Anthony Jackson Miller, I'm not sure if you've met him yet, but he's making his way around, trying to meet everyone. And he is fitting in well to the department. He's been there, 2 weeks now? And he's doing a very good job for us. So currently we're authorized 31. We are currently at 26. And I consider myself lucky when I listen to other chiefs and sheriffs around the state when they talk about staffing that we're only 5 short. And I say only, I wish that we were at full staff, because that would give us the full capacity to be able to do all of the things that we want to be able to do to provide proactive coverage and that type of thing. All of our shifts are currently covered, however, right now. We are filling two of our nighttime positions with overtime because we have one person who's assigned to traffic. And we did that. We went back to having a dedicated traffic person, because that is where our citizens are asking us to concentrate our efforts. So that's where we're at right now with staffing. I would love to say that we have lots of applications coming in. We do not. We currently have 2 people in the Vermont Police Academy right now. So hopefully when they get out, that will bring us up to the full 26 that we currently have. So with saying that, I learned the other day that we had 60 applications in all of 2022 so far. We've had 60 applications. I mean, in the past we've had hundreds for our openings that we have, and now it's just not happening. We're just not seeing the applications, and many of those applications that we do get, folks don't call us back. You'd follow up with them and they don't call you or something like that. many of them are generated by Indeed or however the systems work. They get generated automatically. So we're having the same issues that everybody else is with finding folks, qualified people and people that we really want to bring into the department. And we are still being very, very selective as to who we bring into the department. So I would rather have us be where we're at than to hire someone that is not going to fit in to the values that we set. So that's where we're standing with that. And then, so we have records clerks. We have 4 full-time dispatchers and 4 part-time dispatchers. We currently have 4 part-time officers who are filling in shifts for us. They also come in extra. We have one working tonight who fills in an extra shift and comes in to provide extra coverage. So this is just the basic structure of the department that we have now. And like I said, it was restructured when I came in 2020. And in the past, we had captains as the second in charge for the police department. I went back to lieutenants and left the captain's position on the shelf. But the lieutenant functions as a captain used to here as a second in charge. And under their patrol and our district liaison officer, and then our investigators on the right there. So I just threw these in here because we have in the past had some questions about why we have so many officers and why we're at the staffing level that we're at. So these are just some stats from VT Digger back in 2020 when they were doing a study of various police departments in Vermont, and the national average is currently 2.4 per 1,000 residents. Vermont the average is 3.5, and we're currently at 1.39. So we've been at that level for a long time, even though we added an additional 2. I think it was in 2017 before I came here. I believe there were 2 additional officers that were added. And when I became chief, I had in my interview with Evan Teach at that time, I told him that I was not going to advocate for more officers at this point because we're currently functioning where we should be, and we're doing well with what we should have. At some point in the future, maybe that will change, but right now we're maintaining what we can do, and we seem to be doing okay with that. So just a comparison of costs, and this is another question that comes up, and certainly not from the boards, and I don't want that to come across in that way, that the boards have been nothing but supportive for the police department, both of them. So I just wanted, folks to understand that, we're authorized 31 officers and our per capita is at 1.39 compared to others in the county. And our closest probably would be South Burlington, would be comparable to us in population. They're currently at 39 officers. And oh, by the way, the last I heard, they had 10 vacancies. So they're doing worse than we are. And they're at 1.92 officers per capita, and they currently pay about $260 per officer per resident, or the amount spent per resident, and then $225 for the Essex Police Department. So we're still trying to be very fiscally responsible with what we do. So just in regards to our training, and this is something that we also have tried to make more prominent to folks, is that we're required, each officer is required to have 30 hours of training every year. Most of our officers average about 180 to 200 hours a year for training, which if I could do it and still be able to fill shifts and still be fiscally responsible, I would allow them to do 1,000 hours of training a year, but we still have primary duties of filling shifts and answering calls for service. So we're not allowed to be able to get to that level. But, we spent over 3,300 hours of training in 2021. And a lot of that was in use of force and firearms. Firearms, we qualify. I shouldn't say qualify. We train in firearms at least 6 times a year. We offer training to the officers, which is much more than many departments, as I see Dan nodding his head. That's more than many departments do. Many departments will only do 1 time a year. But because that is a high liability area, we want to focus on that. Use of force, we also do that twice a year. Domestic violence, de-escalation, we just did a refresher last Thursday and Friday for our officers in de-escalation. We currently have an instructor John Rutenberg, who went to training about 3 years ago before George Floyd. And it was very timely that he had done that prior to that. So he's been doing that for us since then, and he did a refresher for us the other day. And then, of course, we're mandated fair and impartial policing by the state. And then we train also in investigations, and there's a lot of other different topics. Our canine officer who's pictured there, he does 2 days of training a month with his dog, and it seems like he's constantly doing something with the dog. It's evident by her skill. And then finally, first aid and of course, mental health crisis. So we would love to have more training in mental health crisis response. That is something that we respond to constantly. Almost every day, we're going to some type of call that involves someone in mental crisis. So we would love to have more training than that. We are trying to do that. We're getting more in that through the state, and we're relying on Howard Mental Health as well to provide that for us. So this is something I wanted to bring to the forefront, and this was something that we did last year, or actually earlier this year. So we were the first department in Vermont to purchase a virtual reality training simulator, and we looked after looking at a couple of different models. We settled on the Apex officer version, and what this basically allows us to do is immerse an officer in a virtual reality world where we can change scenarios. We can interact with the officer via avatar. The instructor will actually interact with the officer, answer questions from the officer in various ways. We can change the scenario virtually with a click of a mouse or whatever, and so that the officer gets a varied experience. So I just have this short video that shows kind of a demonstration of it.
The audio is gonna work.
Audio didn't work. Okay. And that's okay if it did. I'll just go by it.
On there. I don't
Okay.
know if it's a problem because I don't have the audio on mine. Put my audio back on, but then we're gonna have all kinds of feedback, right?
Yeah, that's not.
Like too hard to work with the one screen. We might have to just follow up when
Yeah.
we're on.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. So just you can just leave that video playing there in the background if you want to, and I'll just explain a little bit about it. So basically what you're looking at there, the officer wears a backpack that basically has the actual unit and the batteries in it, and then it connects to a VR unit that actually goes over the eyes and covers the ears, so that way they're completely immersed. I've done it once so far, and it is very realistic. It makes your heart pump. It gets you going just like you were in a real scenario. The good thing about this is, and it's different from the old systems that we used to have when I first came on, that were very, very kind of sloppily made, and the technology just wasn't there. This is very fluid, where the scene actually moves as the instructor wants it to. And in addition, this isn't just a use of force training simulator. So the old systems that we first started with, you probably remember those, is like every scenario you went through, you knew when you went through it that you were going to be using force on something, right? And you were planning on that. This is a training simulator, and what we're doing now is we've changed the way that we're using this system, in that an officer is trained not to use force every single time. And in fact, we're only doing it, the officer, as they're going through scenarios, are only using force about 10 to 15% of the time. And they're actually being able to resolve those scenarios without using force. We're training them to use the de-escalation skills that they've been learning, instead of simply just going and teaching them how to use force. So we're pretty happy with it so far. As I said, we just started getting our officers into the simulator. And so far it's been excellent. Many of the scenarios can be, if you put an officer, say, into a high school scenario, you can actually put that officer into up to 100 different locations to start that scenario. So nothing is ever the same as they go through. So it was a significant purchase for us to be able to do that. We were fortunate to be able to have the funds to do it. And I think it's going to be something that we're really going to rely on, and the officers will really get very, very well trained from it. So anyway. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about Essex Best and our work with them since 2020. So they were formed in 2020 as part of a community effort around governance and a specific focus on law enforcement. And we're still meeting with that group. We still have about 10 or 12 members that are left in that group. And we've been meeting with them monthly for the last, I believe it's the last 5 or 6 months, where now we are moving forward with a study. Actually, we're studying how to best form an advisory group, a formal advisory group for the police department. Raj has been there for those meetings, and he's been great with being part of that. But some of the recommendations that they have come up with in the last 2 years, I just wanted to point out some of the things that we've done as a result of those. And so we have a new mission statement and core values. We've posted our policies online. We're trying to be more transparent with the public so that they can see what our policies are. We're focusing our efforts to engage with the community through social media and other community events. One of the 3 goals that I had for the department when I became chief was to re-engage us into the community. It had become less and less over the years. I can remember back in the 90s when I was here, we had actually 2 people who were assigned. They were police officers assigned to do nothing but community engagement. And over the years, that kind of fell to the side, and I really wanted to bring that back. That was part of why we now have Anthony, and we've been doing that through things like National Night Out. We've been hosting Coffee with a Cop at different places. And then finally, I know I've been saying this, we are going to have a Citizens Police Academy. We're developing it. I have one citizen in particular who's been asking to go. And I keep telling her, we will definitely get you into that. We are going to do it. I hope that it's going to be this fall, but it might be closer to January. So then we transitioned our SRO to a district liaison officer working with the school system. They asked us to do that. They came to us and asked if we would be willing to transition from a traditional SRO model to a district liaison. And now we've created that position where we are now that model that we've created is being used in several other schools around the state. That's worked out very well for us. We would love to have more contact with kids. And that's one of the goals that we would have for that position now, is to get us back to where we have more contact with kids, positive contacts with kids. So we are trying to advocate and provide increased funding for community outreach in the Community Justice Center. In particular, community outreach, we rely on those folks constantly. On my way over here tonight, I heard one of our officers asking if there was a community outreach person on, and unfortunately, they're only part-time. They work every day, but they're not full 24 hours. We would love to get to that point. But for right now, they are providing a great service to us. I can't speak highly enough of the folks at Howard Mental Health and the folks that are running that program for them. They do a fantastic job on a daily basis, and certainly they are huge partners of ours. And then finally, we created and implement training for staff on racially responsive policing. So this is a new training program that I've been working with Tabitha Moore on, and she's been consulting with us for the last 2 years as doing more to be more of the 21st century police department. And this is part of it. This is also as a result of the incident that we had last summer, where we recognized that there were some issues that we had where our police officers could have been better trained in the areas of racial harm and that type of thing that people might have experienced in the past. So this training that we've been trying to develop for the last year, and we're in fact going to be putting it out next week for our supervisors for the first time, will be basically teaching officers to be more culturally competent and to be more racially responsive, or at least responsive to racial harm that's been done in the past, and how to better interact with citizens when that's a problem, and also responding to cases where somebody might have experienced harm that are based on race. So that's something that we're going to be putting out as well here soon. So just some crime statistics, year over year. So just to go through these just a little bit. The blue is 2019, and then everything after that. We saw a significant spike in larcenies, in burglaries, assaults, sex offenses, drug offenses the last 2 years. Part of that's been related to COVID, with what was going on with that, and people being locked down and that type of thing. Part of it is related to what's going on in the rest of the state. And the whole state is seeing their numbers increasing. We haven't been immune to that, but we certainly aren't as subjective to it as other agencies have been, and even some here in Chittenden County. So those are the things that we're seeing. Stolen vehicles really stuck out to me. And then seeing the chief's report from Burlington last night, it made me realize that we're seeing the same things that the city of Burlington is seeing with stolen vehicles. It's just been a problem for everyone in Chittenden County in the last 2 years.
Chief, this is Raj. Can I ask you a question about the numbers?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is 2022. Is this through last month, or?
Yeah, that would have been through, I believe it was like October 1st.
Because that's pretty dramatic drop then. If there's only, 2.5 months left in the year, and some of these numbers are fairly dramatic drops, which is
yes,
larceny, burglary, and assault.
Correct. Yeah, for 2022, we have seen a pretty significant drop in those, and like I said, part of that's been related to the COVID restrictions being lifted, and some of the folks that were being housed here in Essex and Essex Junction now not being housed here. As for traffic, which is always a great concern of ours, as you folks know, our number of traffic stops dropped by more than half from 2019 to 2020 and then 2021, and these are just for the city. So our numbers really went down during those 2 years. It appears as most of those are coming back, and this is through June 30th. Raj, I'm sorry, I might have misspoke. That is through those numbers were through June 30th.
Okay.
So our traffic stops, look like they're coming back. We're re-engaging with traffic enforcement. I was in a meeting the other day at the state level in regards to traffic numbers, and our traffic fatalities in Vermont are seriously up for the year, and they have been in last year, and they are this year as well. The number of tickets written and the number of traffic stops are way down across the state. And the point of the meeting was identifying that problem and what we can do to increase that number of enforcement on the enforcement side to get officers to re-engage back in traffic enforcement. And there's a number of reasons for why that has happened. But some of the things that we have done to try to avoid that is, the officers have been encouraged to continue their traffic enforcement here in Essex because our citizens are asking us to do that. And if we fail to do that, then we will lose the support of the citizens, and that's not something we want to do. So we recognize that traffic enforcement is an issue for us, and we are still engaging with that. That's why we do have a dedicated traffic officer again. And I will say our number of traffic stops in comparison to agencies that border us, some of them, those numbers are about 4 times as many as the other agencies are. So,
and just real quick on that, in my mind, it makes sense in many ways. Where if traffic stops are occurring less, because the past 2 years, larceny, burglary, all these violent offenses are on the rise.
Correct.
I frankly would hope that the traffic issue is being put to the side while other more serious life-threatening things are.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, if the more calls for service that we have, the less time that we have to do traffic enforcement.
Just curious, I appreciate what all work's been done to put this together. Your information on motor vehicle crashes, I mean, there's a vast, you have property, just property damage, injury,
Right.
serious injury, fatal, what, I
Right.
mean, it's not broken down, but I assume,
It's not. Those are total numbers. Those include everything from a fender bender in a parking lot all the way to a major crash. Yes.
and I'd just be interested, because a lot here, as you're aware, and we're all aware, I mean, the population, the density in the village, or the city, I should say, as opposed to the town outside, I mean, you got a higher concentration of people,
Right.
vulnerable users such as pedestrians or bicyclists, crossing intersections and the traffic, just so it'd be interesting to see how that all plays out.
How that breaks down.
Yeah. And-
Yeah. Generally, the more serious crashes we see here in the city are rare, but the ones that we do see are bicyclists and pedestrians, because that's what we have. Out in the town, we see more involved with single vehicle crashes, that type of thing. They're more serious. So that's what I have for you. I'm interested to answer any more questions that you might have or anything like that. And I will close by saying that I was asked last week to plan tours for the select board to come through the police department. And I did put in the request that you all be included in that, all of the trustees. So that way you guys get a chance to come and see what we do on a day-to-day basis and get to see the building and what we do. So
I appreciate that, and I have taken you up in the past, especially with spending time with one of the officers, which frankly was a wonderful experience, for lack of a better phrase. Very eye-opening in many regards. So it's something that I personally appreciate having that opportunity to do. And I would look to the other counselors here to also take up that opportunity. As it's one thing to hear from you, and it's another thing to actually see the officers in their line of work and stress that they're under.
that is absolutely true. And I would extend that invitation to anyone. Yeah.
One question I do have, I saw you provided the stats, which is appreciative. I'm curious, in your tenure, how are you seeing the calls for services changing, if they are changing from, say, pre-COVID, during now COVID, or early parts of COVID to now? Are you seeing a shift in the types of calls that the department's getting?
Well, initially when COVID first started, we saw a real drop in our calls for service. I mean, people were locked down. We didn't really see a lot of incidents. We started seeing more like domestic violence, intoxication, those types of things. As we've gone on and things have adapted, we've started seeing more like larcenies and those types of things at some of our major businesses, especially Lowe's. We were having up until probably about 3 months ago, we were having major issues with Lowe's, with retail thefts from there. Not as much in the city. It was directed more out on Susie Wilson Road area and that type of thing. But so as we've gone on, we've seen those things kind of lessen as well, as you saw with those numbers. But we're currently still seeing drug offenses. We're still seeing folks that are involved in that, in the sale of drugs. We're just doing a search warrant tonight. As I was coming in here, my officers were out doing a search warrant in the town for, not for drugs, but certainly some other activity that's around that
Stuff.
So yeah.
Just curious, what, from your experience working here within the town and the city, what can we do as governing body within the city to enhance enforcement or enhance the work you're doing? So, I mean, obviously hiring more police officers would be great, but in the form of maybe getting message out to businesses, residents, ordinances that we tried to blend the ordinances between the town and the city so that it's consistent across. Is there anything you can think of to ask us to do for you?
I think the greatest thing that the boards can do is to support us, especially in our efforts surrounding traffic enforcement. There are some people and some advocates that are out there who would advocate for us to not do as much traffic enforcement. And what we're seeing as far as with impaired driving around the state and with speed enforcement, especially, or speed violations especially, enforcement, like you said, is how we take care of that. Between education and enforcement, those are the two ways that we can really make an impact with that. And if we're not out there actually making the average motorist believe that there's a chance that they're going to be caught, violating the law, then they're going to be virtually doing that with impunity. So I would say is if you're out talking to citizens, that type of thing, just let them know that we're not doing this, we're not enforcing the traffic laws for money. This is about saving lives, and it's about saving injuries.
Yeah, as I just recalling from my career, like you're saying, Chief, it's educational.
Yeah.
It's not just, revenue. If people get that, and then, it's the end of the month. Oh, the end of the month, your stats. No, there's nothing to do with that. It's all about educating the people about this. And I assume, just like I did with the state, that if there's contact, there's some form of documentation of every interaction.
Yes.
Whether it's a written warning or something that's documents, so it's maintained so they can show this is what we addressed, this is how we addressed it, for whatever reason.
No, that's absolutely right.
And I'm glad to see the other thing. I think a lot of people also are saying, officers, should be this way, this should be that way. No, officer discretion. I often brought it up to people in the past that if you do away with officer discretion, you're going to have a lot more people upset with you. Officer discretion is important to have, maintain that, because it's just in many ways better, I think, for the public to.
Yeah, I mean, our officers are trained in procedural justice, and we certainly understand that not everyone deserves a ticket. I mean, as a police department, we write about 70% warnings versus 30% tickets, and it's really about changing behavior, not costing someone money. That's not what it's about. And when it comes to impaired driving, that's obviously another realm of traffic. So, yeah.
Raj, see your hands up.
Yeah, excuse me. I just wanted to make sure the community understood that Chief Hoague and the department have been very supportive of DEI work and Essex Best in this whole process. And it's hard to overstate how much effort has been put into this area over the past 2 or 3 years. And I am very appreciative of it. And I just want to make sure folks know that there's a lot of work being done. I truly believe there's 100% buy-in from leadership in the department in this area. And I think we should all be grateful that we have that leadership and we were able to keep the relationship with Essex PD as we separated from the town. So I just wanted to say thanks for that. And it's been an interesting process, some great conversations. So I just wanted to put that out there and make sure the board knew and that the community knew that there's a lot of good work going on. And thanks.
No, thank you, Raj, for saying that. I mean, and this has been a real learning process for us as well. And we've certainly learned a lot and been able to make a lot of progress with citizen contacts. And we've made a lot, even friends with people in the BEST group and folks that have been involved over the last couple of years. It's been a positive relationship, and that's one of the reasons why we continue to engage in it. And we not only want to be an effective police department, but we want to be a professional police department and do things the right way.
Any other questions? Anything else for us?
No, that is it. Thank you very much for listening to me for so long.
Well, no, we appreciate you being here. Really do appreciate the work of the department. Certainly let us know when the Citizens Police Academy is available.
Absolutely.
It'll be quite the exciting experience.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Chief.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. And so next up, we have a discussion and consideration of the library roof bid.
Yes. So, you had a project in your capital plan to replace the library roof. In thinking through that project, it made some sense to also think about relocating the entrance because the way the two roofs kind of come together, there ends up being just a ton of ice buildup in front of the entrance. But that's neither here nor there because this went out to bid and we only got 2 bids back. One of them just for the roof, but didn't necessarily come in the proper way. But even so, just two roofs with such complete disparity and what the price points for this roof. We're just thinking that, as we already know, it's a really tough time to get contractors and to think through this work. So from a staff perspective, we can put a small investment into repairing one section of the roof that's definitely damaged and needs repair before the snow falls. But we have plenty of time. We're thinking in the life of the roof that's there, and we can kind of regroup a little bit, think about putting more money in the capital plan if necessary, but that's the recommendation at this point.
Sounds logical in my mind.
Yep.
And there are no questions, comments, concerns. We have the recommended motion.
I will move that we reject the two bids submitted for replacement of the library roof.
Second?
Thank you, George. Thank you, Dan. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Great. So that passed unanimously. And next we go into the acting zoning administrator appointment.
Yes. I would like to be acting zoning administrator. Terry's on vacation right now, and it became clear that we probably should have done this when I started, just to make sure we've got two folks who can play this role if need be. Until such time that we have a community development director in place, it makes the most logical sense that I step in and be that acting person when Terry is unavailable. So that is the recommendation.
Makes sense.
Have you memorized all of the?
I have not.
Because the zoning administrator, you have to just be able to spit them right out. You can't stop and look them up. All right.
Make a motion that we appoint City Manager Regina Mahoney as acting zoning administrator until such time that the new Community Development Director is hired and when the Assistant Zoning Administrator is on leave.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, George. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Great. So that passed unanimously as well. Thank you.
Really, thank you.
Thank you, Regina. And now on to the accountant position.
Yeah, so we talked about this at the last meeting when we did our conversation about FY24 goals and a little bit of a check-in as to where we are this year with moving towards separation. Separation has always contemplated this third finance staff person. Because this position isn't right now in our personnel policy, just wanted to bring this in front of you to authorize me to move forward on that position.
Thank you, Regina. I don't see any.
I'll move that we authorize the city manager to add the accountant 2 position at pay grade 8 and incorporate this addition in the next full update of the personnel policy.
I'll second that.
Thank you both. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Great. So that passed unanimously. Thank you all again. And 5H we moved to or tabled for a subsequent meeting, so that will bring us into the consent items.
Move to consent.
Thank you, Dan.
I'll second.
Thank you, George. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Great. On to the reading file and board member comments. I've got nothing. Anybody have anything you want to talk about?
I do not have any comments.
Regina, anything else that's going on you want to make sure we hear?
I don't think so.
Well, then with that, I would entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
There you go, Dan.
Second.
Thank you, Raj. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Great. Pass unanimously. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya.
Night, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.